Good afternoon. My name is Ariel Lomax, and today I will be discussing the categories for the description of works of art, or CDWA, and answering this question: what is CDWA and what is its usefulness in the galleries, libraries, archives, and museums, or GLAM community? CDWA is a metadata schema created to meet the information needs regarding cultural objects, a framework for designing databases and accessing information, a provider of guidelines for describing and cataloging works of art, architecture, and other cultural materials, groups of works, and related images and texts, and a hierarchical and descriptive schema. It includes 540 categories and subcategories. Cataloging cultural objects, a guide to describing cultural works and their images, or CCO, is the content standard of CDWA. According to Mukherjee, 2020, the Cataloging Cultural Objects CCO project is administered by the Visual Resources Association Foundation's Cataloging Cultural Objects Committee, created in 2006. CCO gives guidance for descriptive and authority metadata based on the CDWA and VRA elements. CCO is based on the VRA core and CDWA elements. CDWA Lite, which will not be discussed in detail today, was an XML metadata schema using the core elements of CDWA and following the CCO content standard. CDWA Lite is no longer supported and has been replaced by LIDO, L-I-D-O schema, or the Lightweight Information Describing Objects schema, which also will not be discussed in detail in this presentation, but deserves mentioning. Finally, other qualities of CDWA are that it can be mapped to other standards and it encourages linked open data. I will give a brief history on how CDWA came to be. Prior to the 1990s, most visual arts cataloging followed MARC and Dublin Core metadata standards. In the early 1990s, the Art Information Task Force, or AITF, was formed, funded by the J. Paul Getty Trust and the National Endowment for the Humanities. AITF encouraged dialogue between art historians, art repositories, and information providers to meet the goal of developing guidelines for describing works of art, architecture, other material culture, groups, and collections of works and related images. AITF included representatives from many art information communities, such as art historians, museum curators, registrars, art librarians, information managers, visual resource professionals, and technical specialists. According to Skinner, 2014, CDWA was the first attempt at a data structure specifically created for art objects. Who are the participants in this community? Sometimes called GLAM, the information community of art and cultural heritage objects includes those in galleries, libraries, archives, and museums. These communities are also often referred to as the art and cultural heritage information communities. What are art and cultural heritage objects? According to the National Art Education Association, the visual arts include drawing, painting, printmaking, photography, and sculpture, media arts including film, graphic communications, animation, and emerging technologies, architectural, environmental, and industrial arts, such as urban, interior, product, and landscape design, folk arts, and works of art such as ceramics, fibers, jewelry, works in wood, paper, and other materials. According to the International Encyclopedia of the Social and Behavioral Sciences, cultural heritage includes the sites, movable and immovable artifacts, practices, knowledge items, and other things that a group or society has identified as old, important, and therefore worthy of conscious conservation measures. CDWA has 540 categories and subcategories, but there are core required categories. These include object work, classification, titles or names, creation, measurements, materials and techniques, subject matter, current location, related textual references, person or corporate body authority, generic concept authority, place or location authority, and subject authority. So, object or work refers to the type and number of works, while titles or names refers to the title or name given to a work. And creation holds all those responsible for the creation of the work, such as the artist. Classification would include information to put the object in a classification scheme with similar works. Whereas if you go down further, subject matter relates to its content, meaning, or function. So the things in the painting, what is it about? What does it represent? Or in some cases, for some items, what was its use? The current location includes the current repository, or in the case of many architectural works or environmental art, the geographic location. Related textual references include published bibliographic materials, websites, and archival documents, unpublished manuscripts, and references to verbal opinions expressed by scholars or subject experts. And then there are 4 main authority categories. Those are person and corporate body authority, where anyone involved with the work would be listed, such as artists, architects, corporate bodies, patrons, repositories, etc. Then generic concept authority is for any information that is needed for cataloging. And subject authority, similar to subject matter, but it's for the authority data, and it's information about any characters, stories, events, mythological creatures, or themes referenced in a work. It must be noted that CDWA Light schema was based on these core categories and not the 540 total CDWA categories and subcategories. CDWA can be mapped between many existing metadata standards. VRA Core Categories 4.0 from the Visual Resources Association is an XML schema that is based on the CDWA and CCO. CDWA is also linked to FDA, ADAG, or the Guide to the Description of Architectural Drawings. It is also linked to MARC, Dublin Core, EAD, METS, AMICO, or the Art Museum Image Consortium, Spectrum, SciDoc, and more. What is CDWA's usefulness in the GLAM community? So, Dublin Core was an attempt at making a metadata standard that met all information communities' needs. A CDWA was created to fill the gaps particular to the art and cultural heritage information community. CDWA serves the need of those who record, maintain, and retrieve data in the art information community. It has been developed so that existing art information can be mapped to, and future information can be developed from or linked to. In addition, major museum collection management systems base their data dictionaries on CDWA. It is the metadata standard of choice for ArtStore, and according to Adamich, it is a linked data framework that will enable visual arts information to be more easily obtained and shared. Now I will proceed to show you some examples of the CDWA metadata schema. So before we proceed, I must say that all of these images, unless listed, are from the CDWA website, and they are from example objects that they have provided on their website. So of course, when we think of art and cultural objects, we think of paintings, things like sculptures, maybe furniture. There's some jewelry too, but I want to show you the variety of objects that can be documented using CDWA. So the first example, I do not have an image of it because it is a performance art piece. So as you can see, under measurements, it was a 90-minute installation performance. And if you look under creation, the date, earliest and latest, was 1989. So this was a one-time event. So CDWA can even be used to document temporary things like installation and performance art. In the next example, we have the Declaration of Independence. So CDWA can also be used for cultural heritage documents. This stained glass window shows how CDWA can be used to document objects that are a part of a bigger object. So this is a stained glass window that is very similar to one in the Notre Dame Cathedral. It is actually located in, if you look under current location, its repository is the Metropolitan Museum of Art. But I hope it gives you a sense that objects that are a part of a building, such as windows or sculptures, can also be documented. Next, here is an Etruscan chariot. So larger objects can be included as well using CDWA. And if you see on the side, it lists the object and the material, and it also, under the descriptive note, tells the story of where it was found. It says discovered near Monteleone di Spoleto. Next, I'm also including an example of architecture to show that larger objects can also be recorded in CDWA. So here is Himeji Castle, and if you see, there's an unknown architect, so they have it there, and the dates of construction from 1601 to 1614. And larger works of art can also be documented using the CDWA metadata schema. Here we have the famous Spiral Jetty by Robert Smithson. It was created in 1970. It is obviously too large to put into a museum. It is located in the Great Salt Lake. So here we have the dimensions of it. The coil is 457.2 meters in length and 4.57 meters wide. And we have all of the information about the environmental art. So I'm providing this as an example to show the range of objects, of art and cultural heritage objects that can be documented using CDWA. This is the entity relationship diagram from the Getty Research Institute's CDWA website, and it shows the relationship between the four main authority data categories and visual and textual documentation related to the object. And finally, it relates it all back to the object, showing the interconnectedness with the art or cultural heritage object of record. So what about CDWA and the future? So museums, according to the Code of Ethics of the International Council of Museums, have a particular responsibility for making collections and all relevant information available as freely as possible, having regard to restraints and arising for reasons of confidentiality and security. So all information and data repositories and the people participating in them have a responsibility to improve access and make it as free as possible for as many people as possible. So the statement about museums, however, relates to general access to collections, and museums have not had a protocol for virtual access. So CDWA is great for this change. Times are changing quickly, and especially with the rise of COVID and the pandemic, digitization is becoming more and more common, as well as an inevitable reality. Linked data and interoperability will be popular for the future. And CDWA allows the GLAM information community the ability to improve virtual access. The implications for CDWA are that there is an increased need for museum professionals with expertise in data management, and this need has increased even more with the pandemic. CDWA fits the needs of the GLAM community and the arising changes and growth of digitization. So CDWA fits the needs because it was made for the art and cultural heritage information communities by the art and cultural heritage information communities. It can be mapped to many other data standards. It supports linked open data. It is used by major museums and art institutions. And it has descriptive and authority elements useful for cataloging.